Well, what's up, guys, and welcome back to a very diesel-y, check engine lighty, and scanner reviewy version of ProjectTimeGarage. Today we have the 2006 Chevrolet Kodiak with the Duramax LLY in it. Allison transmission, Western hauler, check engine light. Oh boy. Now, normally having a check engine light on your vehicle is a pretty inconvenient thing, but we just so happen to have this sent over to us by the folks at Innova. This is their 5610 OBD2 Scan Tool. And of all the scan tools that I've had a chance to review on this channel, and there have been a few now, this one I think holds the most promise as far as being my most favoritist and go-toist scan tool ever. I want to show you why I think I'm going to like this so much, and then we're going to see what it can do against this medium-duty Chevrolet Kodiak. And no, it doesn't support medium-duty trucks. In fact, this truck isn't even on the list of supported vehicles. We're going to see what it'll do anyway. After that, we'll put it on something that's a little more, let's say, OBD2 friendly. Before we get started in scanning this this truck to see what's going on with it, let me run you through a few things on this, a few specs, but I want to start off with the stuff that are coolest from my perspective. The first thing is its size. This is a pretty small code reader, and it's not just a code reader, it does a whole lot more. In fact, it's closer to being on par with bigger tools like these. This is an absolute hoss of a thing that will do ECU programming in the whole 9 yards. Now, for the average hobbyist, you probably don't really need all that. Most of what you're going to be doing is reading and writing basic stuff and doing some live graphing, which is pretty much what this one will do. But the thing about scanners like this versus this one, obviously size, but these things, they rely on internal batteries, kind of like a laptop or a tablet. So you forget to plug them in, or if you're like the auto enthusiast guy like I am, you can't leave them plugged in all the time because it'll flat spank a battery, and in short order, leaving it plugged up all the time like that. But every time you go pick the thing up, it's dead. So if you don't remember to make sure you're charged before you use them, you know, but I'm sure mechanic shops don't have this problem because they maintenance charge these things every night, use them during the day. Guys like us, we really don't. So this thing actually gets its power either from AA batteries in the back, or when you plug it in into the OBD2 port, the OBD2 port powers this. That makes it a lot faster just to, you know, jump in, plug it in, and go. Also, this thing has a flashlight built into the OBD2 port. That's a pretty handy thing. That's something that one of my Autels has with the wireless VCI, but I've not seen it on a tool of this size yet. Now, obviously, in order to use that, you'll need to have the AA batteries in it. But if you don't have the AA batteries in it, who cares? You can plug it in and it'll still just work, right? Also, this has bidirectional support. What do I mean by bidirectional? I mean, it can actually read OBD2 data like all the rest of the scan tools in the world, but it can also write or command things to happen. It can tell your ECU or various computer controls on the car to do things like, you know, open an evap purge solenoid, or illuminate the dash lights, or do an instrument cluster sweep test, or throttle body test, or all these other things that it can do. It also supports OEM live data with graphing, and you can actually have up to 4 live graphs on the screen at the same time. That's something also that kind of sets it apart from some of the other tools of this size. Again, it's something that would be closer to being on par with one of these bigger devices. Also, it'll support a lot of dealer level stuff like TPMS sensors, electronic parking brake, ABS, airbag, oil lot reset, and a whole bunch of other stuff. There's a ton of things. In fact, I'll stick up a list here on the screen in a second of all the things that this particular tool has versus the other ones that Innova sells. It also has dedicated emissions monitor readiness lights. So as soon as you plug the thing up, you're going to know right off the crack of the bat if everything's green, if something is not ready, or if something has failed. That's pretty handy before you run your car through emissions, especially if you've replaced a battery or you've replaced something on the car and it hasn't undergone completely a drive cycle. Sucks to get there, wait for 6 or 7 hours in line, and then only for them to tell you, hey, bring your car back once you've driven it some more. It's really a pain. So this thing would actually show you what is and isn't ready. It'll do auto detection of your vehicle when you plug it into the OBD2 port. It has Bluetooth support. Here's another thing that sets it completely apart from other scan tools. You can download an app on your cell phone, connect it Bluetooth to the device, and you can actually connect the device, lay it down, and then you can use the app on your phone to interact with the scan tool. So that's a really handy feature too. And finally, the last thing for me that makes it really stand out is the fact that it does support OBD1. That's a big deal right there. Now you have to buy a separate kit, and I'm going to link down in the description the scan tool and the separate kit to get OBD1 functionality, but it's there. Pretty cool. Let's jump out here and plug it to the truck and let's see what it actually does. Just take a quick walk through it. So there it is, the good old check engine light. Okay, well, a P2563 stored and pending. So that's the only code that I have at this point. This truck has had its batteries unhooked and rehooked a few times, trying to chase down a parasitic draw. So I am tempted to erase that code and just see if it comes back. I think since it's still showing a pending code, it's probably coming back, but I'm going to erase it and we'll see what happens. Cool thing is they got all these hot buttons down through here, and one of the buttons here is a erase button, and you can just say yes, erase all these. Erase successful. My check engine light went off, of course. It'll probably be back, but for right now it's off. All right, so right now there's no DTCs found. I'm going to shut the truck off and then start it back again and see if anything changes. So far, nothing, so that's good. Now, this obviously is not a supported vehicle for this scanner. In fact, most medium-duty trucks are not going to be supported by the scanner. All you're going to get from them is generic OBD2 codes, and that's fine. There's no TPMS system, at least not integrated or any of that. It's a completely different animal. If you're curious about what if your vehicle is supported or not, you can go out to Innova's website at innova.com, and you can go to products and you can select the OBD2 scanner you either have or you're going to buy, and you can actually see you can actually put in your vehicle year, make, model, and all that, and it'll show you what is and isn't supported on that vehicle. That's pretty cool. And like I said, obviously a Chevrolet Kodiak, it's not going to be on that list. In fact, it's not on that list for any of the scanners I own, and that's okay. But the purpose of this right here was just to A, figure out what code I have, and B, show you that even though it's not supported, there is some data you can get out of it. So I've done what I want to do with the truck. Now let me hook this scanner up to a vehicle that has a little more potential of getting some good data. Let's run through it and I'll show you all the things that it can do. It's actually pretty cool. Okay, this vehicle should be a little bit better. This is my my GMC Sierra Denali. This is my daily road warrior vehicle. So this should be able to a little more effectively test the capabilities of the scanner. And my word, I didn't peel that off, but how satisfying was that? Okay. Let's plug it in and see what it'll do. That was fast. Yeah, I'm going to get to that here in a minute. Hey, look. Oh, I know what that is. Intake air temperature sensor. I actually had the air temp sensor unplugged, replacing a headlight, and I forgot to plug it back in after I replaced the headlight. So it's there. These are stored codes, so they shouldn't be of any consequence. So those are the two codes that the truck has at this point. I'll erase them here in a minute after I go through a few other things on the tool. Up here, you'll see all of the emissions readiness monitor status. And in this case, everything that the truck has is green, indicating that the drive cycles are complete, and of the things that it has tested, they were all good. Now, let's go through some of the information on some of these soft keys and what this thing can do. Right off the crack of the bat, we see a yellow light here. So we could have a green light, a yellow light, or a red light. And this basically is telling you the status of basically your check engine light. So I've got a couple of stored codes in here now. They're not active codes, therefore the yellow. If they were active codes in this truck, it would be a red. If I didn't have any codes at all, we'd be at green. And we're going to see that here in a minute. Now, I have these two stored codes, and I can look at the freeze frame data. If you don't know what that is, that's basically a snapshot of all of the systems that are important when a code is set. So my load was at 0%, so not much was going on. Temperature of the coolant was 97 degrees. There are my short-term and long-term fuel trims for bank 1 and bank 2. Engine RPM was at 0. That's kind of important because that indicates that it probably happened as soon as I turned the key on. It set that code. So I'm sure that's when I was changing out the headlight. In fact, I'm so sure of it that I'm going to go back and I'm going to go to the other code, and we'll look at a freeze frame on that code, and it's going to be exactly the same thing. Now, there are 49 different things here that were captured. So there was a whole lot going on, or a whole lot of information that got stored here during this. It's another really cool thing about this tool. It has a lot, it can store a lot of stuff in memory. That's pretty neat. Just looking to see here that engine RPM was at 0. So fuel pressure was 65 PSI. Engine RPM was 0. Probably key on, engine off. As soon as I turn the key on with that thing unplugged, set. So that's cool. If I'm happy with this, I'll just hit back and I'll hit the dedicated erase button. And that's really the first of these cool buttons we'll run through real quick. So erase. Erase ETCs, I'm sure. So erase was successful. I should come back with a green light here once it rescans the truck. And again, that was really fast. And I haven't downloaded a repair solution saying yes, so hold on. Look at there, green light. All right, so we're all happy now. So moving on down, we have a system status button. And basically what it's going to do is you can either pick a module or you can pick kind of a global module, and you can just at a glance see if there's anything in any of these modules. Like for example, I don't know, tire pressure monitoring system. If we look at that, there's a history, right headlamp control circuit short to ground. Remember me saying I was changing out those headlights? Well, that happened there. And there's actually 7 history codes there. So our up button will start to walk us through them. License plate lamp circuit open. Okay, didn't know that. Short to battery. No transponder modulation or transponder. Hood ajar circuit open. Hood ajar circuit, okay. Right headlamp. All right, so let's erase those. Let's just ditch them. Yep. And then there's the GM OEM Enhanced. Now, this is another interesting thing. This will actually scan some GM specific stuff. You can't really go in and pick your modules, but it's scanning them. So that's a really cool thing there. So that's what the system status button is about. The DT codes and freeze frame just basically takes you into your codes or the freeze frame data, which is where we are now. We got there from system status basically. So system status, if I just go to DT codes, it's just gonna, wherever I was last, it's gonna take me back there and show me what codes were in there. Power link, what is that? So that is basically quickly link into a vehicle, which it does automatically when you first get in the vehicle anyway. So there's really not, you probably won't use that much unless maybe you turn the car off or whatever and need to link back up. I don't know. The menu button, well, that gets you into all of the other stuff that this thing can do. Like for example, and this is where it gets really deep, and this is where if you go through everything, your video would be like 6 days long. But skimming the top, the active tests, those are cool. This is part of that whole bidirectional stuff that I talked about a minute ago. So we'll go to powertrain and look at maybe the engine control module. For example, our evap purge solenoid. So this is a big one for every GM vehicle, I think. We can start to open and close the evap purge solenoid. So I can increase it 20%. And then I can increase it 20 more %. Or I can go back and decrease it to where I was. And when we exit out of that, let's see, what else is interesting in here? There's 13 tests here that are pretty cool. Fuel pump enable, you can turn that off, which would kill the truck and probably set another code. We don't want to do that. Cylinder deactivation, we can depressurize the fuel system. So there's quite a few things we can do in here that we don't really want to do on a good running truck, but we can. Let's run back. Special functions, let's see what we support on this truck. Back to powertrain again, ECM. So we can learn the crank position sensor, we can do a throttle body learn, heater learn, idle learn reset, brake pedal position sensor learn, remote vehicle start disable history reset. That's a lot to say. So engine oil life reset, which that's actually a pretty interesting thing. You can do that from the dash of these trucks, but a lot of vehicles, you know, they have you like stand on your head and push a button while, you know, signaling to Mars twice or something. Sometimes it's faster to jump in here and do that. Another really interesting thing is the drive cycle procedures on here. It must be just a database on the tool. If you don't know what that is, let me kind of give you a quick overview. Basically, on when you clear codes or when you disconnect the battery of OBD2 vehicles, it resets those drive cycle monitors. And basically what those monitors are, they are certain modules that are emissions related modules that the system wants to check and have them be okay before the vehicle says, yes, I'm happy. So for example, like the evap stuff, that's especially big for the GM vehicles. Like I said earlier, it will go through and it will test the evap system once you've cleared codes or once you've taken the battery off or whatever. And basically that is one of those key things that it has to say, you know, I've passed this procedure, I've passed this particular readiness monitor related to emissions before I'm ever going to be happy. The deal is, if it hasn't completed that test yet, or if that test is still pending or waiting, then you take it through emissions to get your smog checked or whatever. They're going to tell you, yeah, you need to come back, your car's not ready. So if you've ever been told, yeah, your computer isn't ready to be tested yet, that's what it means. It hasn't completed all the drive cycles necessary to put a green check mark beside all those little bullet points that it needs to. Each one of those little bullet points is has a different drive cycle, and what I mean by that is a different condition upon which it's checked, right? Like the heated O2 sensor. Most of the time when you turn the key on and start it, it'll heat the oxygen sensor and it'll test that pretty quickly. But evaporative emissions, keep going back to that one because that's always the hanger, the one that takes the longest, especially in GM. Evaporative emissions, it seems to take forever. In your 2005, 6, 7 GM vehicles, you literally have, seems like you have to drive the thing miles and miles before it'll ever check that. Also, if your fuel tank is either slam full or slam empty, it won't complete the test at all. So it's where having a tool like this comes in really, really handy, right? So all that to say, drive cycle procedures. This tool actually has some information so you can learn how you need to drive your car in order to complete all these tests if the tests haven't been complete, or if you've cleared codes, or taken the battery loose. So let's look at those real quick. Between 10 and 15 volts, barometric pressure needs to be greater than 10.9 psi. Fuel level has to be between 25 and 75%. This is for the evap stuff that I just talked about. Engine coolant temp has to be less than 108. Intake air temp has to be between 36 and 90. Start up to engine coolant temp minus IAT within 90 degrees. So you get where we're going with this. It can be a giant pain to make sure all of these things are done. But the cool thing is the tool tells you every single thing that has to be done, every condition that has to be met in order to make a successful drive cycle test. So it's pretty neat. Also, we have the DLC connector. Where's it at? So let's look at, I don't know, next page, 15. Let's look at a BMW. Let's look at a 7 Series. If we're gonna look, let's look big. And heck, let's say it's maybe a 750 Li X-Drive. So there you go. In the driver's side, under lower left side of the dashboard, DLC is covered. That's pretty cool. Pretty cool information there. So yeah, there's a lot this tool can do, and I mean a lot it can do. So the last thing that we want to look at here is the live data button. If we hit that, we can look at either powertrain or transmission live data, and clicking this starts to put stuff up on the screen. Now there are 151 PIDs that we can look at, and obviously we're not going to look at all of them. So I can run down through all of this and see all the live data of what's going on right now. If I hit the live data key again, this lets me select custom things. In other words, just the stuff I want to look at. I probably don't care about vehicle speed when I'm trying to diagnose rich conditions or whatever. So if I hit enter here on custom live data, this allows me to go through here and put check marks between things I want to see on the screen. So let's say I want to see engine load. Let's just say short and long-term fuel trims, and I don't know, let's pick something else here. Well, let's say ignition timing, for example, and done. And there we go. So I only see those things on the screen. One of the last things I'm going to do here is I'm going to download the app for this, the Bluetooth app. I'm just going to search for Innova. Repair Solutions 2. Let's install that. Now that it's downloaded, I'm going to go out here and find it, and I'm going to move it up to my automotive, whoops, get back here, automotive folder. That's where I keep all the auto related junk. Repair Solutions 2. Let me create an account real quick. Now that that's done, I'm gonna allow it to send me notifications for now. Do I have a compatible scan tool? I do believe I do. It wants me to allow permission to nearby devices. Allow. While using the app. So Bluetooth is on. Plug the scan tool in your vehicle. That's done. Turn your ignition on. That's done. And continue. Searching for the scan tool. It has found it. Pairing in progress. Nothing's going to happen here, but it'll happen here. So success. Your scan tool has been paired. And I'm just not sure where I purchased this thing. So, okay, we're retrieving data from the tool. Pretty cool stuff. Now, keep in mind, this is Bluetooth, so it's only going to be good for about 50 or so. Let's see, odometer. Let's say it's got 120,000 miles on it. Generate report. All right, so now that that's done, no engine codes, all modules passed. We're ready for an emissions test because that's green. Common dashboard lights would be check engine, ABS, or SRS, obviously. Maintenance items. I have 3 maintenance items here. They're due at 135. Now, this is pretty cool. Replace the cabin air filter and engine air filter, and advise inspect the evap. Boy, we keep coming back to evap, don't we, for GM? So that's pretty interesting. We also see predicted repairs. Now, this is a really cool feature. Catalytic converters, 8% probability, all the way up to the most probable. Transmission, valve body assembly, and wire harness. Huh, it's already been done. Did I mention this was a 8L90 transmission? Yeah, the famous GM 8L90 that's got them in a class action lawsuit now, I believe. Yeah. I've had all the problems with it. I don't want to say I've had problems with it. I haven't really had problems, but it has been the worst shifting and the clunkiest transmission I think I've ever seen in my life. But that's not the scope of this video. So yeah, I love that it gives you all this information. Cost to own, warranty statuses and all that stuff, TSPs and recalls, another really cool thing. So dealer recalls, what's out there? February of 2020 is the latest one. I actually think there's another one out there I got in the mail just the other day that I don't see on here. You can also get a vehicle history report here. So it's going to take me out to VIN data to do this, so there's no point in doing that. But anyway, yeah, that's quite an interesting thing there. So that is a cool scan tool as far as I'm concerned. There is a whole lot of horsepower under this little hood right here. One thing I can guarantee you, this will be my go-to scan tool. This is the one that's going to stay in the truck with me all the time because it's small and it does a lot of stuff. I'm going to leave an Amazon link down below to the scanner, and also an Amazon link to the OBD1 stuff, which we haven't even talked about yet. And at some point I might do a video on this. But one thing's for sure, you're going to see this again on this channel, just doing day-to-day work. So appreciate you watching, guys. Hope you found this content informative and useful. If you did, give me a thumbs up down there. If you didn't, I guess a thumbs down's in order. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, tell all your friends about us. And guys, I'll see you next time.